Gervon Dexter discusses what's different with Dennis Allen at the helm of the defense. DeAndre Swift also excited to play behind the O-line, which he should be. We're going to talk about 4 Bears players that are primed to have breakout seasons in 2025, according to Bears Wire. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And we're going to start off talking about Gervon Dexter and his comments around the Chicago Bears' new defensive coordinator, and that is Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen's a guy I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with the weapons that we have on the defensive side of this ball. I talked about it a lot, the fact that Dennis Allen is one of those creative minds as far as on the defensive side of the ball, just like Ben Johnson is on the offensive side of the ball. I think those are things that's really going to help this team kind of uncover more, even with some of the players that they did not make changes or upgrades from, is going to help that. But Gervon Dexter said this: Coach Allen's defense is a lot different. You know what I mean? He throws in a lot of different fronts, a lot of different ways to get after the quarterback and stuff like that. So I think being that type of guy I can play in a lot of those different fronts. So just being in it, and he'll move guys around the way and the offense. He'll switch it up on the offense. It'll be good for not only me, but everyone on the defensive line and on this defense. And everything has to go together. Now, we've talked a lot about it. Like when you're looking at defensive line, the secondary, linebackers, like it all has to work in synergy. It all has to be in tandem. It has to be together. The pass rush affects the pass coverage and vice versa. And so because of that, having Dennis Allen, a guy that has really his finger on the pulse of bringing that all together, should help this Bears team be able to take that next step or a step from where they were defensively last season. Our defense was bad last year. Now, it looked more solid before all the injuries started coming to Jaquan Brisker and Andrew Billings and things like that, and finding out that Montez Sweat was never healthy at the start of the season. But you still have to be creative in how you use your personnel, and that's what Dennis Allen is really bringing to this. I know it's like beating a dead horse at this point, but like how he uses defensive backs, how he uses that third linebacker where he can have a defensive back there. He can have an a defensive lineman there, one of the edges there, if on clear passing downs, or if he trusts them in coverage. He's going to do a lot of creative things there. But I also think the fronts that he's going to show. One thing that hurt the Bears a lot last year, when we talk about the Bears not getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, we were a team that just didn't blitz. We almost didn't blitz at all. And we were actually third in the league in pressure, considering the lack of blitzing that we had, right? So, that is on top of the personnel changes, should factor into the Bears defense being able to be a lot better in 2025. Now they got to show it, but you want to have a guy that sees how everything fits together. And once you have that guy, that's where you start punching above your weight. So while people have questions about like Dayo Yingbo, we're going to have enough on the opposite side of Montez Sweat, Austin Booker, Daniel Hardy, how those guys grow. Gervon Dexter, who himself needs to refine his game some and be better in the run game. Having a guy like Andrew Billings now who's going to come off the bench for Gervon, and Grady Jarrett who's going to be the starters, all those type of things there is really good. And I think, we have the questions there, but it's up to Dennis Allen to fit those pieces together in a way to where the team hums and operates as a team, as one unit. And so that the process of watching that, on top of watching how different this defense feels from what we had under Matt Eberflus. And keep in mind, there were times over the last couple of years where Matt Eberflus was a solid enough defensive play caller, but the lack of creativity. You can be a good play caller, but if you don't do things that cause the offense to think, it causes the offense to kind of wonder what you're going to do. And then especially when you just don't blitz at all, you allow offense to get comfortable. The thing that Dennis Allen brings to this defense is that you can't get comfortable with Dennis Allen calling the defensive plays, because what he's going to do is literally he's going to try to take away that comfortability. Whether you figure it out or not, you can't rest on, hey, this is what they're going to do on this specific pass play. This is what they're going to do on every third and down. It's not. Dennis Allen is going to read that situation and that scenario and find the best combination of personnel and scheme to cause the offense to think. And that level of creativity is something we've been missing here for too long in Chicago. And so, while we got questions, I talked a lot about the questions like Tremaine Edmonds, can Gervon Dexter be more consistent this season and for a full season? Is Montez Sweat going to be back to the play that looked like one of the better pass rushers in the league? Is that going to happen? We got a lot that we still need to prove. Can Jaquan Brisker stay healthy? That's one of the biggest questions as well, and one of the things that Jaquan needs to focus on this year. This season is really about Jaquan Brisker for himself. I'm not saying for the Bears as a whole, but for himself specifically, is can he stay healthy for the season? If Jaquan Brisker can stay healthy, there's a new contract there waiting for him. But can you stay healthy? That's a huge question, and that's a question that we don't know the answer to yet. So we're still trying to find those things out as well, and hopefully we do. And Dennis Allen is going to be a big part if we do find those answers to those questions. He's going to be a major part while we can. He just will. He'll be a major part of that. So, we'll see. I have a lot of hope for this defense under Dennis Allen. I have a lot of hope for some of the personnel that we have here. But what's the phrase I've been saying for a long time so far is you cannot allow the excitement to turn into expectations. I don't have any expectations for this team right now. I'm just going to be clear here. I know I did when the schedule came out, I did my meathead predictions, but that was fun as a fan. As an analyst, I have no expectations for this Bears team. I have hopes of what they can do. I look at this team and can see what they have the capability of doing, but if you're not bringing that consistently, it doesn't matter. So, I want to see what this team's going to bring, what going to be on the football field, and Dennis Allen and his defensive staff and overall this coaching staff, it feels like we have the right guys to get the most out of your roster, and that's what you want. So hearing that Gervon Dexter feels confident in it, he likes what we're seeing from Dennis Allen, and that's one of the big differences here from last season to this season. That's going to be real big. And, Gervon Dexter is a guy that, we're looking at. Me and Darius have our disagreements about Gervon Dexter and whatever there. But, if Gervon proves it, all that's going to get quieted down. So we'll see what Gervon proves in year now 3, but his second year as a starter for the Chicago Bears. With that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next one, man. DeAndre Swift talked about playing behind the Bears' new revamped offensive line. He said this: new faces and things like that. Experience for sure. Excited to play with those guys up front. A great group of guys, group of guys. We had a great group last year too, but just excited for those guys, the new acquisitions, the new coaches, and everything like that. It's hard to tell right now, like a running game and all that type of stuff with no pads on, but I'm sure we will get back and start really going. I'll be able to tell for sure. Now, I know people are going to say, what do you mean you had a great group of guys last year? And, of course, you're going to talk good about your teammates. And, if they probably did have a good group of locker room guys, that's fine. But the performance on the football field last year from that interior offensive line was trash. It was god-awful. And so, I was able to be on ESPN Chicago yesterday with my brother Pat, the designer, in which we talked about the Bears' revamped offensive line and why that has brought renewed confidence to this team. And there is a lot of reason to have confidence in it. That interior offensive line that the Bears have put together could be one of the best in football next year. I say could be because, again, we got to see health. We got to see how they're going to come together. We got to see it proven, all those type of things. But they could be one of the most, or definitely the most improved, but they could be one of the better. Pro Football Focus had them ranked in the top 5 as far as offensive line groups. So it shows that what Ryan Poles has done in actually investing in the offensive line is something that people are taking notice of. It's something that makes sense. Now, the question is can you do anything consistently? And if the Bears are able to do that consistently, that's what's going to start changing things for this team. But you have to do it consistently. And if you don't, you're just going to be in the same place where we're just looking at things and saying, well, he spent more money, but what was the real result? This is one of the first years, and maybe in my lifetime, where the Bears, the combination of money that was spent on extensions, money that was also spent in getting these guys in here in trades, and draft capital as far as drafting Ozzie Trapillo and Luke Newman, this has probably been one of the years that the Bears have ever spent the most money on the trenches and their offensive line. And so, you want to see that. And DeAndre Swift knows, like we've been saying, I always like to go to Crimson because he was the first one to make this point. But DeAndre Swift, as a veteran running back in this league, knows how much a good blocking game, a good offensive line helps a running back. It does so much for a running back to be able to have a offensive line that you trust is going to be able to open those gaps. And that's what what Ryan Poles has really built here. Versatile offensive linemen that are good in the run, good in the pass, and we should see a considerable step up. And then you also factor in having Dan Rouchar. Like, you didn't just go out and spend money on just the personnel. You also got a renowned offensive line coach in Dan Rouchar to come in here and coach this group, which means that that's good for your rookie in Ozzie Trapillo. That's good for your third-year guy in Darnell Wright. That's good for the overall setting the expectation of what you want on the offensive line and scheming and having these guys prepared. So it's been a noticeable investment to get this offensive line and where it needs to be. And the one thing that we have left to prove on it is, can you do it on the football field? It's great to talk about, like, on paper. Yeah, the Bears have a great offensive line. There's just some question about the depth, right? That's something me and Pat talked about over on ESPN Chicago yesterday. Like, it's the depth is a question there, and we gotta look at that depth and see how that's going to end up developing. But you got a guy like Ryan Bates, who the Bears thought was going to be a starter last year. He's now depth for you. You got a guy in either Ozzie Trapillo or Braxton Jones. One of those guys are going to be moved to the bench. That's going to be solid, I think, in that role, especially Ozzie Trapillo being able to be a swing tackle, play the left or right tackle if he doesn't win the starting position. I'm not mad at that either if that ends up being the case. Luke Newman is a guy that I think could turn some heads as well. Ricky Stromberg's still here. Theo Benedict. Like, I think they got some guys that they feel confident in. The question is that confidence actually going to pay off on the football field? And that's the thing that we don't have the answer for yet. We only get that when you're on the football field, but it seems like things are going in the right direction. And the Bears have now turned possibly one of their biggest weaknesses to one of their biggest strengths in just a season. And if that ends up happening, if this offensive line ends up being a strength for the Chicago Bears this upcoming season, do you know how drastic of a turnaround that is compared to what we looked at last year, where we had several plays where all of our offensive linemen were on their backs like Mariah Mills? Now, you see that? Like that's a bad thing. And so, bringing in Drew Dahlman, number one center on the free agent market this year, bringing a guy like Joe Thuney, one of the most consistent guards you will find in the NFL, period. Bringing in Jonah Jackson, another guy that's performed at a high level. Now, you got to worry about health with that and stuff like that and switching the right guard, but overall, you still see that in him. So, when you put this whole thing together on paper, it looks really good. And there is a reason to be confident. But I love that even DeAndre Swift said, hey, it's hard to tell right now with no pads on, but once we get those pads on in a few, we'll know then. And that's what Bears fans will know then too, because soon after they get those pads on, guess what's next? Preseason games. And, last year in the preseason, where I was telling y'all, hey, this offensive line is trash, and Bears fans were like, hey, the offensive line did one of the best in preseason. Told y'all, the offensive line was mad shaky, y'all. But in this year, hopefully not. There's no need for I told you so. There's no need for any of that. There's just need to celebrate and a desire to celebrate how the Bears have turned one of their weaknesses into a strength. And that's all we can hope for. But with that said, let's move on. Bears Wire's put together an article in which they have 4 Bears players primed for breakout seasons in 2025. Now, we're going to talk about some of these players. I'm going to give my thoughts on them. We're going to read what Bears Wire had to say about them. Number 1 on the list was Caleb Williams, saying this: there's no one else who belongs at the top of this list than Caleb Williams, who's primed to take a big step forward in his sophomore year. The entire offseason has been about building around Williams, the hiring of Ben Johnson, shoring up the offensive line, and adding more weapons. Despite a rocky environment, Williams quietly had an impressive rookie season, and it was certainly enough to lure Johnson to Chicago. Every list that we get is going to be about, Caleb Williams is going to be on it. He's about players with the most to prove. Caleb is going to be on it. Players that can take the biggest lift. Caleb's going to be on it, right? Players to look out for. Caleb Williams is going to be on it. There is so much that's built around Caleb Williams because of not only where the Bears draft him, but the fact of the matter is he is a starting quarterback in the NFL, and he's starting for the Chicago Bears, meaning all the narrative, everything is going to be built around Caleb Williams. It's just going to happen. It comes with the job. That's always one thing that I say, and so nobody should be surprised by that. The 3,541 yards and 20 touchdowns and 6 interceptions that Caleb Williams has was really good. Record for a Bears rookie. But you know, in watching the game and looking outside the stat sheet, the holding on to the ball too long, not attacking the middle of the field, the inaccuracy issues, these are things that Caleb Williams has to go through and learn from it and grow from. And the thing that I love to always say with Caleb, that I always like to hold Caleb Williams accountable to, is that he said he wants to be great. He said that he wants to be judged by Super Bowls. He said those things. So it gives you a clear path to hold him accountable to his own words. People that are judged by those things, they make improvement. They make refinements. They make tweaks. They grow. every single year. And that's what that has to be about for Caleb Williams. You have to grow every single year. If you don't do that, what are we doing? So, while there's a lot of Bears fans that have tons of doubts still about Caleb, we still get the comments about Caleb Williams. You still have Bears fans that are triggered by Caleb all the time. That's perfectly fine. That's their prerogative. But me, for one, as I said with everyone, and I'll always do with every quarterback, every player that's on the Bears, I'm rooting for our guys. And I want Caleb to be great. Now, the question is Caleb going to be, and Pat the designer worded this when I was over on ESPN. He said this: is Caleb Williams going to be somebody that you win because of, or is he going to be somebody that you can win with at the quarterback position? That is a really great layered question that I think that could go over some people's heads. But that is what you're looking for to determine with Caleb Williams through his development. Is he somebody that you can win with as being your starting quarterback, or is he going to be somebody that you're winning because he's your starting quarterback? And as many people as I know there's already people typing with that comment that said, fuck you. Like, when it comes down to it, you still has time to develop. You're not going to write the story on a quarterback after 1 year with a up and down coaching staff, up and down play calling, and his play was up and down. Let's see what Caleb Williams can bring in year 2. Next up, they bring up Romeo Odunze saying this: who says the Bears can't have 2 breakout players from last year's draft class? Romeo Odunze was the 3rd wide receiver selected in last year's draft, but there's no denying his incredibly high ceiling, especially with Ben Johnson now in place. Odunze had a solid rookie year with 54 receptions, 734 yards, and 3 touchdowns, despite being the 3rd receiver behind DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. But with Allen no longer in Chicago, the stage is set for Odunze to have a bigger role in the offense. And Rome has prepared himself for that. When you see Rome, he's jacked. He's ready to go. He's ready to take on the rigors of being that wide receiver in this league. And so, of course, you're hoping that he has a Amon-Ra St. Brown type leap under like he had under Ben Johnson. We'll see what ends up happening there. But the thing that you can always bet on, especially the skill positions, is that under Ben Johnson, he's going to try to find a way to put the ball in their hands and then let them get to work. Talked about it with the guys on Sunday, is that yards after the catch is going to be the motto of the receiving core for the Chicago Bears. By receiving core, I don't mean just wide receivers. I mean anybody who's catching passes from Caleb Williams. It's going to be about how do you create more yards after the catch. That's what Romeo Odunze has to do this year. And we'll see. I think Rome has just as high of a ceiling as anybody else. Look at some of the other wide receivers from his draft class. They're already looked as more proven commodities, and that's because they weren't on the Bears with what the Bears had going on. But we'll see if these guys can grow from it. We'll see if they can learn from it. And overall, I think that it's a lot of reason to be excited about what Romeo Odunze can do. Next up, Coston Loveland is next up on Bears Wire's list, saying this: Loveland has yet to hit the practice field, but they are already incredibly high expectations for the 10th overall pick heading into the 2025 season. And it once again comes back to Ben Johnson. While Johnson will surely utilize 12 personnel with Loveland and Cole Kmet, Loveland is at his best as a threat in the passing game, so much so that it's like in comparisons to Sam Laporta, who Johnson coached during his time with Detroit. Coston is an easy pick here. And I think with Coston being almost instantly one of the Bears' best route runners, there's going to be a lot of ability to use him. He's not going to just line up as the tight end. I know we have Olamide Zaccheaus. I know we have Luther Burden as the slot, but you're going to see Coston Loveland line up as a slot receiver sometimes. Mark my words, it's going to happen in some plays, not to make it gimmicky, but when he feels that Coston Loveland, because of his route running and size, has an advantage to take advantage over a cornerback or a linebacker or whatever it is there. You're going to see Ben Johnson do that with Coston Loveland, and that's great. That's how you want to try to use your versatile rookies while you have these 2 tight ends and Cole Kmet and Coston, and you have Luther Burden there. Get creative in how you use these guys. That's going to be a thing there. Again, not over-reliance on it. That makes it gimmicky, but get creative about trying to find, again, what's the word here with the offense? Get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. And when you do that, good things tend to happen for teams that operate and execute well. Let's see if that can be the Bears next year. Last player on the list is Gervon Dexter. A lot of reasons why to have Gervon Dexter here, right? When you look at what he had last year, 24 tackles, 4 sacks, 12 QB hits. That's when he was next to Andrew Billings. Once Billings went down, the production went down. Only 1 sack over the final 7 games. Now you have Grady Jarrett there, right? You still have Andrew Billings there. You have Shamar Turner there. So now with Gervon Dexter being part of a better and deeper defensive tackle rotation, of course you're going to expect more from Gervon Dexter, as you should, because Dex can bring it. Like, this is his 2nd year as a starter, 3rd year in the league. He's not done growing and developing yet. You need to be better in the run game, but picking Gervon Dexter to be a breakout player, That's because he seemed like he was on the precipice of that breakout season last year. It seemed at the start of the season that he was going to break out, that we were talking about somebody who was going to be mentioned as having one of the best defensive tackle seasons in the NFL. It came crashing down after Billings went down, and that's also because of play calling, depth, all those type of things. Now we're looking at those things growing. We're looking at the opportunities growing from him. What did you learn from year 2 to year 3? As a full-time starter, what did you learn? How are you going to involve your game? So I like these 4 players that Bears Wire have picked to be breakout players in 2025. Let's see if they can go out there and do it. That's my time for today. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.